If you follow the NBA every season, you'll get this feeling that with a fresh year comes several new unicorn players entering the league. But recently, they are starting to feel less and less like unicorns because we get them more often than not. When I think of a unicorn in an NBA context, I think of a 7-footer that can shoot and dribble. But looking around the league, I can't help but think there are only a few who fit in this category these days. However, if you want to meet a true unicorn in basketball, look no further than Kenneth Lofton Jr. of the Memphis Grizzlies, who after going undrafted in the 2022 NBA Draft, signed a 2-way contract with Memphis. In today's video, you'll get to find out how Kenneth Lofton Jr. has transformed from a once unranked high school recruit, or in other words, he wasn't even ranked top 1,000 recruit, to being a beast dominating the summer league. What put Kenneth Lofton onto the scene in the first place? And how did the 280-pound, 6'7" power forward even make his way to the NBA? Stay tuned to find out. We're now starting to see him in action in the NBA Summer League. And let's just say, there might be a new archetype of NBA players coming along if Lofton continues to dominate in the way he did in his first game. Kenneth didn't just score 9 points. He also played 14 minutes and made 4 of his 5-shot attempts. And while watching some of his clips from the Summer League, you get a sense of what makes Lofton a unicorn. He stands at 6'7", but weighs in at 280 pounds, with a body fat percentage of over 15%. Those last two measurements were easily the highest out of the NBA draft combined. And while you could probably point to some other relatively heavy guys who played the power forward position and don't exactly tower over others on the court, I could say with certainty that I've never seen a player that big and stocky in the NBA before. Traditionally, this is seen as bad for prospects heading into the NBA, but for Kenneth, it might be the only thing really keeping him afloat in the league. Lofton's strength and weight have made bullying smaller defenders basically his bread and butter as a low-post scorer. But as we're about to get into, it looks like he's been expanding his game to the perimeter over the last year or so, and obviously, there's a lot more Lofton can do with his body than just forcing his way into position, but we'll get into all of that soon. Let's start with what put Lofton onto the scene in the first place, and how a 280-pound, 7-foot power forward even made his way into the NBA. Well, as you could have likely guessed, it wasn't easy for Kenny. He started out as just a 3-star recruit in high school, according to ESPN, while 24/7 Sports didn't even have a national ranking for him, even though their site ranks players up to 1,000. Lofton was as big of a no-name as a high school prospect to guess, but he was absolutely dominating in high school. As a senior, he put up 17 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 assists per game. And this definitely made college scouts aware of Lofton. But because he was such a unique and unusual player, it didn't really matter how dominant he was in high school. The big question was, how would any of this translate to the next level of the game? Lofton earned a scholarship from a mid-major school in Louisiana Tech, and this would put his abilities on full display. Surprising everybody, he was the best player on the team as a freshman, going to average a team-leading 12 points and 7.5 rebounds a game, leading his school to a 24-8 record. Fans of basketball eventually caught on to Lofton, and discussion began online about whether there was an NBA future ahead of him. But at this point, it still looked pretty unrealistic. As a user on Reddit put it, the weight, plus being a 6'7" post scorer, plus not shooting threes, plus being a 60% free throw shooter is a pretty impossible equation to overcome right now. You'd have to take big strides physically and technically. Somebody responded, reminding them that Lofton is a teenager, so he could still grow, to which another user replied, saying maybe he could become a pro wrestler. These comments were getting a bit out of hand, but I thought the first comment was pretty well said. All of the concerns the Reddit user expressed are very common things for people to bring up for a big man in today's game. It's one thing to be a 6'10" freak athlete at the big man position who still hasn't quite learned how to shoot the ball, but at least there are freak athletes who can rim, run, and defend a bit as they develop. Lofton simply wasn't any of that. He's a 6'7" overweight post scorer with no scoring skill outside of the post, and his stature made his defensive upside an even bigger concern. However, while all the cons of his game were constantly in the spotlight, Lofton stuck to what worked for him, and after the season, he was invited to play with the U19 USA team alongside guys like Jaden Ivey and Chet Holmgren. While everyone was excited to watch those two, it was soon Kenny who everybody was tuning in to watch, and there was a reason why. It's easy to criticize a player when you never watch them play. It allows you to focus on what's really wrong with them. But when you do actually tune in, you're forced to see why they're so great. Throughout the tournament, Lofton was literally the best and the most active player on the court, and he averaged 13 points and 5 rebounds in just 18 minutes of play. Chet Holmgren would take home the MVP of the tournament with not much better numbers. Although we're not here to debate who should have come home with the trophy, but Kenneth was pretty impressive. And if you just watched these games, you would have known how impactful Lofton's presence was. While he didn't block a lot of shots, he put up a very solid defense, and regardless of the height mismatch, he was frustrating opposing bigs with his superior weight and strength. Plus on offense, Lofton backed his way 2 inches away from the rim on every possession he got the ball. And at that point, the only way guys could stop him was by blocking his shot. And to be fair, that was quite common. But it seemed like he would grab the offensive board and still put it back every time. He would bully anybody who got in his way for the entire tournament. There's something about shorter bigs with lower centers of gravity that gives them the balance needed to be unstoppable post scorers. And you add that to Lofton's 300-pound frame, and there was very little defenders were able to do to stop him. Kenny's amazing play and winning of the gold medal led to tremendous confidence for him in the following season with Louisiana Tech. He was now a sophomore, and there was no question about who was the best player on the team. It was Kenneth, and he'd prove it throughout the season. Over 33 games, Lofton Jr. would go on to average a double-double with 16.5 points, 10.5 rebounds, and 3 assists on really solid shooting. Lofton also brought us a few extra things during his sophomore season at Louisiana Tech that we needed to see him improve on. For one, he hit 67% of his free throws, which was an 8 percentage point increase since freshman year. And this is an underrated skill to have, especially if you're a guy like Lofton who's impossible to stop without being incredibly physical and drawing a lot of contacts. 67% isn't great, but it's good to see him improve there. We also saw Lofton make a few mid-range jumpers. There's definitely a promising soft touch to his shot, and seeing him take so many after barely drifting outside of the paint as a freshman tells me he's improving quickly as a shooter, and maybe soon you'll be taking more threes. And lastly, the biggest improvement came with his passing. Low-post big men are often viewed as black holes in modern basketball, but ones that could pass out of the post can easily compensate by finding open cutters and shooters off of their post. This is a skill that Lofton has seemed to unlock, and that underrated passing ability will prove to be very valuable for his career. A few months later, the Memphis Grizzlies would roll the dice and sign Lofton to a 2-way contract, so we'll be seeing him play in the NBA G League and with the Grizzlies next season. But I'm starting to get the sense that we'll be seeing him in the NBA a lot more than most people are expecting. He's been awesome in the NBA Summer League, and we've seen him dominate his age class in FIBA and college. So he's been great everywhere, and to me, he seems like a player that would be very difficult to stop even at the highest level. And I can understand that people will definitely be skeptical. There are some major issues with Lofton's game, but I kind of view him as a Zion Williamson type of player. He might be just as good as Zion, as each of them use their size to score and can make plays out of their drives. This is the kind of play I expect Kenneth Lofton Jr. to bring to the Grizzlies, and I feel people might continue to look down on his playing abilities, because it seems like every time Lofton makes it to a new level, people will always just question if he's good enough to make it to the next, instead of just appreciating him for who he is, who quite frankly is an awesome young player, who keep in mind is only 19 years old. So we got years to watch this unicorn unfold. You certainly shouldn't judge a book by its cover, and Lofton has proved this right. What are your thoughts on Kenneth Lofton Jr.? Do you think he'll find it hard to cope once he's in the NBA? Do you think there's room for players like him in today's game? Do let us know in the comments below.